our strongest partner has always been the United States. But of course, we are trying to form coalitions and multilateral relations so that those like-minded nations who share the same values as we do, who hew to international law, most specifically the UNCLOS, present that position very clearly to anyone who has intentions of unilaterally changing the world order, and that is how we are guided in that.
And I don't mind if he gets along with China, because we're getting along with China very well. We have a very good relationship. In fact, the magnets, which is a little complex piece of material, but the magnets are coming out, very well. They're sending them in record numbers. We're getting along with China very well, and I don't mind if the president dealt with China. If that's meant, because I think he has to do what's right for his country. I've always said, make the Philippines great again. Do whatever you need to do, but you're dealing with China wouldn't bother me at all.
No, well, now it is something that we have to do in any case,
yeah.
And certainly.
Mr. President, do you support the Justice Department seeking a new interview with Ghislaine Maxwell? Did you urge the Attorney General to seek?
I don't know anything about it. They're going to what? Meet her?
Your Deputy Attorney General has reached out to Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney asking for a new interview.
Yeah, I don't know about it, but I think it's something that sounds appropriate to do, yeah.
Do you have any concern that your Deputy Attorney General, as your former attorney, would be conducting the interview, given?
No, I have no concern. He's a very talented person. He's very smart. I didn't know that they were going to do it. I don't really follow that too much. It's sort of a witch hunt, just a continuation of the witch hunt. The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but all the way going up to 2020 in the election. They tried to rig the election, and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. When we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level. So that's really the things you should be talking about. I know nothing about the other, but I think it's appropriate that they do go.
May I ask you about that, Mr. President?
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard has submitted a criminal referral to the Department of Justice. From your perspective, who should the DOJ target as part of their investigation? What specific figures in the Obama administration?
Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it. And Biden was there with him, and Comey was there, and Clapper. The whole group was there. Brennan, they were all there in a room. Right here, this was the room. This is much more beautiful than it was then, but that's okay. I have nice pictures up. They came out of the vaults. They were in there for 100 years. This is much more beautiful. We have the Declaration of Independence now in the room, which wasn't here. I guess people didn't feel too good about putting it here, but I do. But you know what? If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one look, he's guilty. It's not a question. I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. you've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like it. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of additional documents coming. So President Obama, it was his concept, his idea, but he also got it from crooked Hillary Clinton. Crooked is a $3 bill. Hillary Clinton and her group, the Democrats, spent $12 million to Christopher Steele to write up a report that was a total fake report. Took 2 years to figure that out, but it came out that it was a total fake report. It was made up fiction. And they used that. Now, the one thing they weren't able to do was to, and probably the only thing I respect about the press in years is the press refused to write it before the election. They refused to put it in. The Steele report was a disaster. All lies, all fabrication, all admitted, an admitted fraud. She paid $12 million, and the Democrats, for that report to a wise guy named Christopher Steele. He wrote a phony report, and they wanted to get that report in before the election. And I'll tell you what, I talk about all the time, the fake news, how bad it is. But in this case, they wouldn't do it. They saw it, they read it, and they said, we don't believe it. And it was only after, substantially, like a month and a half after the election, that it got printed, and it was a big wisp. It was just like a bang of nothing, because the election had ended. If that report had gotten published by the New York Times or somebody, and I respect the Times for maybe only this, because they're crooked as you can be. They're a terrible paper, a crooked, corrupt paper. But for this one moment, they said, this is bullshit, we can't put this in. And neither could any other paper. Wall Street Journal's a lousy paper, very, very dishonest paper. As you see, I'm suing them for a lot of money because they do things very badly. It's got a nice name, but it's really, in my opinion, it's a terrible paper, and it can be corrupt. But just so you know, they didn't take the Steele report. It was the dossier. Remember the famous dossier? I called it the fake news dossier. The news wouldn't publish it. And I'm amazed. They had 2.5 months. It was finished, 2.5 months. That was supposed to be what was going to happen. And it got published a couple of months after the election, and frankly, nobody cared too much about it. But that was a big thing. No, we caught Hillary Clinton, we caught Barack Hussein Obama. They're the ones, and then you have many, many people under them. Susan Rice, they're all there. The names are all there. And I guess they figured they're going to put this in classified information, and nobody will ever see it again, but it doesn't work that way. And it's the most unbelievable thing I think I've ever read. So you ought to take a look at that and stop talking about nonsense, because this is big stuff. Never has a thing like this happened in the history of our country. And by the way, it morphed into the 2020 race. And the 2020 race was rigged, and it was a rigged election. And because it was rigged, we have millions of people in our country. We had inflation. We solved the inflation problem. But millions and millions of people came into our country because of that. And people that shouldn't have been, people from gangs and from jails and from mental institutions, people that we don't want in our country, and people that we're getting out, dangerous people. 11,888 murderers, many of them, 50%, more than 50%, murdered more than one person. I hate to say this with such a distinguished guest, but you know, they asked me a question. I got to answer the question. No, Barack Hussein Obama is the ringleader. Hillary Clinton was right there with him, and so was Sleepy Joe Biden, and so were the rest of them. Comey, Clapper, the whole group. And they tried to rig an election, and they got caught. And then they did rig the election in 2020. And then because I knew I won that election by a lot, I did it a third time, and I won in a landslide. Every swing state won the popular vote. But I won that all the same way in 2020. And look at the damage that was caused.
How crucial is the ammunition hub, and how crucial is the ammunition? Yes, the U.S. House Congressional
had. We're going to have all the speedy missiles. We'll have the speedy ones, the slow ones, the accurate ones, the ones that are slightly less accurate. We have has ever had. It's very important to me. Okay. Go ahead, please, Red.
Sir, when you say that you're close to making a trade deal, what gaps remain? And for President Marcos, hosting U.S. missile systems could be considered escalatory by China, especially because they can strike defensively by China.
With this gentleman, you know, I've known him and I've known his family actually, but I've known.
Yes, sir.
It's good. You're very lucky to be from the Philippines, right? I mean, I know you had some problems with another president. The country was maybe tilting toward China, but we tilting toward China for a period of time, and I just don't think that would have been good for you. You can deal with China, you should deal with China, but say it again. Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
Oh, Mr. President, I just wanted to piggyback off.
Question again?
It was about whether having U.S. missiles.
All of the what we consider part of the modernization of circumstances that surround the situation around the South Pacific, which we have expanded now to the Indo-Pacific, and military spending, we would wish that it wasn't necessary. Adjunct to the question about the ammunition assisting the Philippines in what we call our to be self-reliant and to be able to stand our own 2 feet. The reason that we have we have it is with all our neighboring countries and even countries the EU, and so this is an ongoing. I will stress the point that we do this because we feel it is necessary.
Tantamount to what you're asking, they were at a very, very dangerous point, and during my administration, we wiped them out. But if we didn't go in, I don't know what would have happened. But we spent a lot of time and a lot of talent on going problem
We did.
during my administration, and we cleaned it up. We got.
How can you be more president,
Mr. President, I wanted to follow up on the housing question. How important is it we have no tax on home sales?
It would also unleash you just by lowering the interest rates. If the Fed would lower the rates, we wouldn't even have to do that. But we are thinking about no tax. That question, because nobody knew that.
Well,
How did you find that out? That's very.
I wonder why there's somebody I'm very close to.
There's a leaker. There's a leaker.
We know more about two people at a Coldplay concert just hours after that viral video than we know of Thomas Crooks 1 year investigation on Thomas Crooks.
Well, they've reported to me and they've told me things, and they really say they haven't found anything that was because they, you know, they were right there and they jumped on me. They made a mistake. They should have had somebody on that roof, and they should have had communication. They made some mistakes, and we have a whole different group of people now. I don't think anything. I think they've learned, and you know, they went into him very, you know, in great detail. They gave me the whole thing, and what can I do? Looking to do this, and I spoke with the FBI. The new FBI. I spoke to the FBI, who was the old FBI. As hell. He was one of the most crooked. Everybody should read the Horowitz report. Unfortunately, Bill Barr didn't use it, but the Horowitz and the FBI, it is one of the worst times. Did an editorial that was one of the worst editorials ever. And Barr didn't use it because he didn't have the guts to use it or something. Instead of doing the Durham, all they had to use is the Horowitz report. A Democrat, I guess. He was appointed by a Democrat, but that. All go back. It should be mandatory reading. Go back and read, and you'll see exactly. We're going to add that to all the sound is even more so. Now we found absolute. This isn't like evidence that Obama was seditious. And it was with Hillary Clinton, with all these other people. But Obama talks about people I never even heard of. It was this one. No. It was Obama. Everything. Got everything. This is the biggest scandal. Goes on to even the auto pen, because it all relates to. It's a tremendous, well, we don't have a president, we have an auto pen that decides everything. You're the president of a country, but it's all that. And the auto pen was used by people, and Biden knew nothing about it. He knew nothing about. As an example, they released the unselected 2 years grilling everybody, and then they destroyed all, gave them all a pardon. The Cheney, all the and Democrats, and he gave them a pardon. Do you have something?
Faulty reports that Adam Schiff claims he lived in a developer. How does a family afford to live in a one-bedroom apartment?
No, it looks bad thing. They have them. Now let's see what happens. It's mortgage loan fraud. It's a big deal. But it's very simple. It's mortgage loan fraud, and you're down. But he has a lot of other things far worse than that. So, no, Adam fraud. Now, if there's anybody else in this room except you'd have a problem. I'd have a problem. Yeah, please.
Federal dollars back as a part of any agreement with the administration?
No, I'm not. Can you believe it? By the $7 billion, and we want money to They have $52 billion. They get huge tax incentives, billion, and they got $7 billion over a short period of time. A very, very hostile judge who win it on appeal. She hasn't given a decision yet, but she's very hostile. So we don't expect to have, we won the case yesterday. We easily won the case. But a lot of the case, and that's not part of the case, and they're not going to get very much.
Negotiating about the reciprocal tariff, how far are we from the Philippines? How far are we from achieving?
Well, it's tough. He's a very tough negotiator. So far, we're not there because he's negotiating. But we'll probably agree to something. But he's strong.
Philippines. When are you coming to the Philippines, sir?
You talked a lot about. In your view, sir, what are the next steps now that these documents?
And we have a very competent, very good, very loyal to our country. And it's going to be her decision.
CBP officer who was allegedly shot this weekend by an illegal alien. Any local leaders who continue to push sanctuary city policies after this nearly tragic incident?
So the only why would they allow 21 million people into our country, unvetted, unchecked? You don't run properly. Biden and his group of thugs, and I don't think it was right behind you. They allowed 21 million people, gangs and drug dealers and mental institutes. 21 million, probably 25 million, probably even more than that. People, many killed more than one person. Stone cold murders. The vote, because they want voters. That's one reason. But the vote, and the second reason is they hate our country. Biggest problem. I mean, much of our time is spent with, we create. Been stronger than your border, if you can believe it. We have no people came in last month. Are the ones that do that calculation. So, but we had hundreds of thousands of people, and they flowed last year. So millions of people prior to election time that opened the gates. If you took an Alabama LSU football, 28,000 people, and I liked them and they liked me, into our country on a daily basis. It's not even believable. Yesterday, a police officer who's great gentleman shot right here. He was brave and he shot the other guy, and they ended up getting him, and you saw sidewalk. The whole thing was crazy, but these Democrats have done, and honestly, we can never forget. America is very, very sad. Thank you very much, everybody.
Walking.